This is Nahaz, and men lie, women lie, but stats don't lie. With all the traveling I've been doing and buying a house, haven't gotten a chance to do these videos in some time. At least the second of those looks like it's put to bed, so I'm going to bring you a little bit of content here ahead of DAC this weekend. This figures to be an excellent tournament, maybe the event of the year so far. The group draws occurred earlier this morning. You can see this is just about the two most balanced A and B groups I have seen in one of these events. The top four in the DPC standings split evenly across the two groups. You can see the fifth place team in VGJ in Group A, whereas 6 and 7 are both in Group B, and other teams that are in the conversation, Mineski in Group B, as well as LGD and TNC lurking in the wings in Group A. So I think this is very, very balanced. You can see our Glicko ratings in .dota.com would suggest that as well, and that group phase is going to be very competitive. The top 5 storylines of the event. Number 1, Liquid and Secret have a chance to mathematically clinch their spot at the International 2018 in Vancouver by finishing second place or higher. Both, of course, finished in the top 3 at the DreamLeague minor this past weekend. Notable, of course, as well, that Liquid was playing with Coach Heen and will have Miracle back for this event. And the narrative I thought was most interesting at the last weekend's event in Stockholm. A lot of people have been talking about Secret being off their form after looking like perhaps the best team in the world for stretches in December and January. Secret looked a little bit more human, particularly at that Bucharest Major. A little bit of a misprint there. And of course, we're knocked out of Katowice by that dramatic FNATIC series that culminated with Universe on his Underlord. They looked rejuvenated in this past weekend. They showed mid 1 on a couple new heroes on Phoenix mid, as well as his Visage, which a lot of the other top teams have been trying out. And I think that it's an important observation, guys. This is an unprecedented season with 11 majors and more than that many minors, and you have a lot of teams that are playing, getting up toward 20 events. Teams are dealing with this grind in different ways, and in some cases, like Solo taking some time off of VP, like Liquid playing an event with their coach as a stand-in, it's a little bit more obvious when a team is up and when a team may be down temporarily at a couple of events. With Secret, though, it wasn't as obvious. I do think any structural questions like, are they getting too greedy? Are they too weak in the early game? Were answered pretty definitively at DreamLeague. This is a team that is going to be in that TI top 4 mix for the duration. How many Chinese contenders are there? In the last couple of months, the story has really been a couple of Chinese contenders coming up to the forefront to break that hegemony of Western teams. First of all, Newbee showing up at ESL One Genting, beating Liquid in that final series and really cementing themselves as the 4th of the big 4 teams. And then more recently, Vici Gaming and VGJ.Thunder showing that they can play with the big boys in reaching the grand finals of those 2 majors in Katowice and Bucharest. Now, can they end their C9 curse? I think this is a little bit overrated. The 2 teams have a combined 6 second place finishes at DPC, but no wins. Of course, we know VGJ.Thunder did win the Galaxy Battles event against EG in the finals that had its major status revoked just shortly before, so I'm not really sure that counts. Okay, both teams, though, I think reasons for optimism beyond these results. They've shown some very Western looks. They've switched up their laning configuration with Sylar, for example, playing a core Death Prophet in the side lanes, looking very good for VGJ.Thunder as one example. They've shown some very Western looks, capable of changing around those hero configurations to get favorable laning matchups and strengthen their early game. Both teams have shown themselves capable of winning in these shorter matches, which again, you know, the early game meme is real, guys. I think that that's going to be big in terms of how we evaluate teams going up to TI8. LGD is sort of the fourth Chinese contender that I see having a chance to take its place alongside those three teams. LGD are 24-6 over the last month. They've gained almost 250 ELO. That's the biggest gain among the top teams in our ELO ranking, and they are now number 3 behind Secret and VP. In those ratings, they're number 6 in the Glicko rankings that I showed you in the previous page. They also finished second at a DPC event at the most recent StarLadder, losing 3-1 to Liquid in the finals. I think this LGD squad is legit. I think this is a great opportunity for them to show their stuff and take their place alongside their 3 Chinese competitors in as reasonable, legit top 8 TI candidates. Newbee are the one team I think you have to wonder, are they taking a little bit of a step backward? They've been long known for their dominance over the other Chinese squads. They've lost 2 straight DPC qualifiers now to LGD and were knocked out of Bucharest by VGJ.Thunder. They also look pretty shaky in online play in their 3 recent DPL series in the last couple of weeks. I don't necessarily think that there's any cause for concern for Newbee. I think they're still a very good team. They're going to continue to be a part of this TI championship picture. But if they were to happen to bow out of this event early, be ready. That narrative is going to be questions getting asked about Newbee. All right, can anyone in SEA stop FNATIC? This is the real opportunity for Mineski and TNC to take a step forward and show that they are also among the serious TI contenders from that region. Mineski only 4-9 in the last 3 patches. They've fallen out of the top 20 in our ELO rankings. They have the 5th biggest ELO loss over that span of any of the teams that we are tracking. TNC have only 1 DPC top 4 finish this season. They were second to OG at MDL Macau, which is one of the least competitive fields that we've seen at any of these majors or minors. And they have, what's really scary for them is they have not yet qualified for any DPC event following this. And it looks like, if you look at the composition and the regions where these events occur between now and the end of the year, certainly the majors look like they're only going to have 1 or 2 SEA slots. And with FNATIC looking so strong, reaching the finals of the DreamLeague minor over this last weekend, things are getting very scary for both TNC and Mineski. Both of these teams kind of in parallel have moved their former mid-position player to the support role to bring in a young talent at that mid-position. Jabs, of course, made that move at the beginning of the season. We've seen Cuckoo for TNC make that move more recently as they brought in Armel at the mid-position for Clutch Gamers. As a result, though, both teams are very young at the 2 and 4 positions and at that key captain's role. They need that strong voice in the coaching booth beside them. Mineski no longer have Winner in that role. They've switched things up. Real questions to me about these 2 teams, and it's a little early to be saying this, but it is crunch time for them. I think they have a lot to prove at this event, especially given how strong FNATIC has looked in their recent form. Can EG and OG recapture that old glory? EG looked dominant at GESC Indonesia. They really looked like they had things figured out. Yes, maybe playing some weaker competition, but their drafts were strong. Their early game was absolutely phenomenal. And then they go home and post disappointing qualifier losses to VGJ.Storm and to Optic. Now, of course, Jetlag and potentially illness. I know Arteezy was having some pretty serious problems during this period, may have played a role in these results, but that doesn't necessarily excuse just how badly they lost some of these games. These were 30-minute games, and the series against VGJ.Storm, they looked particularly overwhelmed. Fear was also only 0-4-5 in 27 and 30-minute games to VGJ, and only 5-7-12 in the 2 losses to Optic. Now, I think I may be the only one that thinks this, but I actually think Fear has played quite well this season for EG. But they are sacking him, and unlike what OG did with Anna in seasons past, they don't always necessarily have a clear plan to get Fear back into the game come the mid and potentially even the late game. That's largely on him to run around the map with their supports, creating plays, trying to push those towers. That's a lot to ask of the veteran player. And I think these teams are starting to take advantage of the fact that EG don't always have a clear plan to get Fear back into the game after a subpar laning phase. OG are the team, I think, that have the most question marks surrounding them right now. After being knocked out of the group phase at the Bucharest Major, they kicked Resolution and they played their last event along with a couple of qualifiers with their coach Mad at the mid position. Now, this is not necessarily a bad thing. Remember, Mad has been in that mix for the top position on the EU MMR leaderboards throughout this season. He is a very, very good player. But again, question marks about that play style. The problem with Resolution in that team, it was one of fit, guys. I've been saying this over and over again, that as the pool of top teams has gotten deeper over time, it's become more a question about fit and less a question about these linear MMR type measures. OG is a team in their last couple of iterations that at their top 2 farming core positions, they had been pairing Notail, who is much more comfortable on these tempo carries, these split pushing carries, with a harder farming carry that is going to be a big presence like Anna in these late fights, okay? Resolution is not necessarily the kind of player that wants to do that. He's a guy that likes to be active around the map at all stages of the game. His strengths as a player, if you think back to DC's run at TI6, they would very often sack him in lane, giving a lot of protection to Moo on his safe lane Timbersaw, giving a lot of attention to Wee on those mid-invoker games and a lot of those explosive performances that he had. Resolution, meanwhile, would make a lot with very little resources and would still show up in the mid and late game with this huge and impactful presence. OG, though, it's almost at times like they had 2 of the same player in him and Notail. There was nobody that was really going to play these huge hard carries and come in and just win the game in the late game. They tried to run Resolution on Storm. They tried a lot of different hero combinations, but just didn't necessarily have the right preferences at the personnel to overcome some of those limitations. And I think they are the team in terms of the TI contenders that we would have looked at before the season began. Certainly LFY already firmly out of that picture, but OG are the team that you're looking at now. You know, they're out in terms of missing the roster lock window of the direct invite picture, but you're really asking, can they find the right player, that hard farming core position player, to complete that roster to have a chance to make a run in the open qualifiers? Big questions there. And finally, you know, can anybody stop VP? So Solo, to me, we had this discussion at the GESC event, easily my DPC Midseason Player of the Year, barring the 2 series losses to EG at DreamLeague and ESL One Genting. That was a matchup that, again, EG had won 10 or 11 straight series against that franchise since Sumail joined the roster, but they broke that streak at Katowice. And VP, other than that, have probably looked like, you could even argue by far, the best team at the DPC events that they've played with Solo at captain and drafter. I've talked at a number of people in and close to that organization. Solo is responsible, largely at least, for those drafts and for the strategy that they've pulled out late in these major tournaments to look so dominant even over the other top teams. It is going to be a tall order. Liquid should be rejuvenated with Miracle coming back from break. Secret looked rejuvenated at that DreamLeague Season 9 minor, but still beating VP is going to be an extremely tall order. Rodjer, after coming over from Na'Vi, the CIS sort of sister squad at times, has looked incredible. He's really delivered that extremely high-level play on a relatively condensed set of heroes that the top teams have been running at the 4 position in the meta throughout the season. I think VP are going to be very tough to stop. It's a big question for the Chinese teams in particular. A lot of the Chinese teams have made a tweak to their usual formula, as we've talked about, to be a little bit more of a threat during the early game, but it feels like every time you see VP in those matchups, VP doubles down and plays even faster, and those Chinese teams have yet to respond. I think VP is going to be challenged in the early game throughout this event, but it remains to see whether anybody can knock them off that throne. Guys, thanks for listening. It should be a great event, and I hope to be back in the next couple of weeks with more of these videos. Thanks for watching. See you soon.